We're live.
Good morning, everyone. In order to call today's Friday, October 15th, 2021 meeting to order, I need to determine a quorum. Since we're all calling in, I'll just go around and call everyone. If you will, just stay here. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Ms. Burns? Here. Mr. George?
Here.
And myself, Cindy Fontana. Looks like we can now call this meeting to order. If we need a board member to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Ms. Burns has made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Don.
All right, Mr. Hall is seconded. All in favor, once again, I'll call out your name. Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
And Ms. Burns?
Yes.
All right, at this time, we're now moving into the action agenda part of our agenda, and it begins with 3.1 district masking protocol. Dr. Hill, your name is listed there.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Boomerang will give us an updated report along with the health department.
All right. I think it would be best to start with the health department. Carolyn and Shirley, if you guys have information regarding what's occurring in Pender County.
Dr. B.
Sir, Shirley's saying that she is muted. I'm taking a look. I've not seen that. But hang on just a moment.
I think you have *6 yourself to get unmuted.
All right.
All right.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Thank you, Dr. Hill.
All right.
So, actually, I have Stephanie and Kim in the room with me. Ms. Mosher was unable to sign on this morning. So I'm just going to give you a brief update of what's going on in the county. And most of this information is on our website. We're 8,552 cases, 5 hospitalizations, and 98 deaths. There has been a couple more deaths since we last updated the the health department website this week. Our test positivity rate is at 8.6. The state's at 5.9, and the state's goal is 5, and New Hanover is at 5 this morning, but we have to remember that they have everybody in the county masked up that goes out into public places and schools and every place else. One good thing is our testing numbers are coming down, and that makes me think less people are symptomatic since they're not getting tested. We're down to the 900 range versus 1,200 or more tests a week. And looking at the tests, if I take those numbers, it looks like we're doing about 12 positive cases a day over a 7-day period. The one thing I wanted to share with you is that FDA met yesterday. Yesterday and today, I think I'm right. It was yesterday and the day before. I can't remember now. I'm sorry. About approving the Moderna for a booster dose. So they met about 3 things. One is to approve Moderna as a booster dose, and then the second thing was approving the J&J for a booster dose. And the third thing was to determine if J&J, if someone had the J&J, if they could get the Moderna or Pfizer as their booster dose. So anxious to hear the what comes out of that meeting. Also, hopefully once we get through the FDA and the CDC, probably next week, we're thinking the 21st or 22nd next week, we'll get the final approval and hopefully give us some clinical guidance. And then on October the 26th, and this is big news, the FDA is supposed to discuss emergency use authorization of the Pfizer vaccine for the age group of 5 to 11. And And then the ACIP will meet on that same thing the first week of November. So it's very possible that we will have an approval for the Pfizer to be given to the 5 to 11 age group the first or second week of November. So really, really getting excited about that. I think that's about all the information I had planned to share.
So, Phil, I just have a question for you in regards to the boosters. So, exactly what is the booster doing for everyone? What does it do?
It's supposed to boost your antibodies so you're more protected.
So even if those of us have had antibodies tested and they're high, this is supposed to make them even higher. Is that what I'm understanding?
I don't know that. I mean, everybody's different. I can't answer that question.
Okay, I was just curious. Just curious about what it. Okay.
Yeah, and one more thing I can add too. As you know, we've been talking about the Delta. The Delta variant has been so dominant. It's the dominant strain actually. It has not peaked at this point, and the CDC is actually reporting that approximately 99% of the samples are the primary Delta variant still. So, just wanted to share that.
Okay. All right. Board members, questions? Ms. Barnes, did you have any questions? Mr. Hall?
Well, I also want to open up a topic for discussion. And I just wanted to make sure that all the board members, before I started, I just wanted to make sure that all the board members didn't have any more questions for Ms. Steele. On the day back in August, when we returned to the masking choice policy for Pender County schools, I had an idea about enacting a COVID safety policy. This protocol was set in place to plan that should our COVID numbers suddenly rise again, as they did back in August, we would be able to go back in and set a mask mandate back on track should any of our schools reach a certain level of absences due to COVID. Enacting this plan, it would allow our students, parents, staff, and administration to know exactly what to do. There would be no more emergency meetings, and everyone would be on the same page. And I know that with our numbers going down, everyone is probably thinking, why would we do this now? And I feel like everything has been very reactionary, and we're kind of getting ahead on everything right now. This is the time to be proactive. And I feel that getting ahead of this right now would be in the best interest for everyone. Everyone would be on the same page. And the best part about this is it costs the district absolutely nothing. So I guess what we would open up discussion for, if anybody would even want to entertain this, is at what level would you be interested in seeing something like this happen?
Let's open it up for discussion. Comments, concerns, questions? Ms. Burns, do you have a number in place that you're concerned about, or what you would look at? And is this for all schools or just individual schools if each school reaches that percentage? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am. My thought on this would be we would go anywhere between 15 and 20%. That is the one thing I would like to discuss with the board. That's my personal thought, but I believe that we should do this on the individual school basis.
to other board members. She's opened it up. What comments, concerns, questions do you have?
Dr. Hill, is there any other districts that are currently, have a protocol like that in place?
I haven't researched the state and all the other districts. I do think that is happening. A couple of districts though that I've heard of where they have set some sort of metric. So I don't think we'd be the first ones doing this. I would be glad to try to ask stations if they have anybody's collected that information, to see if I can get the number of some districts. I think, maybe Ms. Burns, are you referring to some kind of something that Onslow did?
Yes, sir. It would be along the same lines. And like I said, I know that I know everything is looking really good right now and the numbers are going down, but that also happened to us back over the summer. And then August happened. What I'm trying to do is just take a page from where we've already been and put some plans in place should we ever have to go there again. The way I see this plan is we set it in place and walk away. And we never have to have another emergency meeting about whether we need to flip the mask mandate again. All of our constituency would know this is where we are, this is where it's heading. And I think part of the problem that we had back in August was everybody was so surprised that we did what we did. This way, there are no more surprises.
Would it have to be the same number for the whole county, or because some schools that are smaller than others, I get the percentage, but I wouldn't want 3 to close up a school as opposed to 30 somewhere. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So there would be I see what you mean about a plan. That way there wouldn't be surprises.
But we still have to, according to the governor's mandate, we still have to vote on the mask though every month regardless.
That's right, Madam Chair. This is Brandon. One of the things you may want to consider is different percentages potentially for different levels of schooling, elementary, middle, high, potentially. Just a thought, because of athletic teams and organizations like that. That's a consideration I just want to throw out there.
And Beth, you said a school-by-school basis. Make sure I'm clear, right?
Well, that's what I'm proposing, but I'm willing to hear any discussion from any of the other board members about what your ideas might be.
Mr. George, Mr. Smith, do y'all have any thoughts?
Well, my only concern, I don't want to put a blanket over the entire school district, because if you have a school like West Pender that might have a higher percentage, but then you have Topsail Elementary that are, soaring pretty good, and I don't want to have to go, I don't want to put masks on all the children based on just one school. So if something like this were to pass, I couldn't support a one school policy for everyone. So because what happens on one side of the district is totally different. And what we've seen most of it, for if I'm incorrect, someone please correct me, but what I've seen is some of the higher contacts has been with sports related. So just like the attorney said, we would really need to, iron out these details.
And Mr. Smith, that was also my thought, is if we did this on the individual school basis, rather than a blanket policy that would cover the entire county, then that way, we are a very large county. And that way, the schools that are enjoying the mask optional could continue to enjoy the mask optional as long as their number is fine.
Yeah, I'm still pro mask optional, and there's a lot of background noise. I don't know if somebody's tearing papers or doing something, but if they could use their phone. But what I wanted to say is that I'm still very mask optional, and the freedom of the parents to make that own medical decision. And thankfully, we've not seen, I don't believe, any kind of major pushback on this. And that the public has been very, the parents that I've talked to and seen are, excited. Now, the pictures that have been posted on Pender County Schools Facebook page, it looks like probably 70% of the kids are still wearing masks. Dr. Hill, do you have any kind of rough numbers from what principals are telling you?
No, sir, we don't take any of it. We haven't done any kind of survey at all about who's wearing or not wearing since it became optional. I could get some qualitative data through conversation with principals if you like.
Well, I'm not trying to add any extra. I mean, the principal's already overtaxed, and the staff, so I'm not, trying to ask for any additional work on them. It's just based on what I've seen on pictures that different schools have posted and then our own, and then even my own children, what they've told me that it looks like there's more kids wearing masks than not. But I would like to hear from the other board members, for what Ms. Burns is bringing up. I like she said, this is something that needs to be publicly discussed before any, if we were to add this on to as an option.
Any other comments, concerns? Mr. George, do you have any comments on it?
I don't. I understand what she's saying.
Yeah, I do too. It's just, so we're looking at, Dr. Blumenwright, you're right there. I know you're a guru when it comes to the dashboard. So
Yes, ma'am.
we're looking at, you just threw out 50. Let's look at 20%. So that would be what it, like Topsail High, and then look at maybe West Pender. What would we?
All right. So if we're just looking at kind of a straight number at Topsail, so we would be looking at 300 students approximately at Topsail.
Okay.
And with West Pender, we're looking at approximately 40. So, you've got a wide variation there.
This is Shirley at the health department. Can you tell us what Topsail Middle School, how many students go to that school? Because that is the largest, that school has the largest amount of kids out right now.
Sure, absolutely. Let me pull up the full dashboard so I can get a better idea of our full numbers right now. Let's see.
780.
Yeah, I was right about 700 earlier, but I think we're a little bit larger. Yep, 788. Yeah, almost 800 now. 788, Shirley.
Thank you.
And we have how many students out right now at Topsail Middle?
Let me pull up now. This is the raw dashboard with not just school, it's all home and all that, and that is We've got a total of 73 that are currently quarantined and 8 isolated at Topsail Middle.
Now, does that mean these individuals actually have COVID, or does this mean they've just been exposed?
That can be either or. So if it's isolated, they are positive as determined by the health department. If they are quarantined, they have been positively identified. They've been identified by the health department as being exposed to somebody who's positive and are quarantined by health department order. So
at 20%, we're looking at about 158 at Topsail Middle. Is that right? Something like that. Yeah.
So 788 times 0.2. Yeah, about 160 in and about.
Okay.
And everyone, I want you to understand, this is not because I'm all excited about putting masks back on kids. I'm not. But I do have to say, lived experience from before school started this past year has taught me that, if anything, you need to be prepared just in case something does happen with COVID, a variant or whatever. And I just thought this would be the best way. Go ahead, put something in place. If we never use it, then thank goodness. Then we're in the clear and everything's great. But if we ever do have to use it, it's already set in place. There's a plan, and everyone knows what the plan is.
My next question would be, okay, let's suppose that you were to make the motion, it goes through. How long would this be for? So let's say a certain school A, gets the 20%, if that's what we decide on, it happens. So how long would we have to have masks on at this particular school?
My thought would be once it hits 20%, the mask has been put on, you would probably want to, but just my thought, I would say keep the mask on for 5 days after they go dip back below 20%, 5 school days, just to ensure that it's under control.
Ms. Steele, you mentioned earlier that you guys were informed that the Delta variant had not peaked. I mean, we've been talking about this for how long that we thought it was getting ready to peak, it was getting ready to peak, it was getting ready to peak. Is there any indication about when that may or may not happen?
No, I had actually reached out to the state this morning to ask them about that. And it just says that the dominant strain in the U.S. is based on like genomic surveillance. And so right now, they don't know. I don't know. I don't think they can give us an answer about that. One thing I just wanted to say about the mask, and talking about putting masks back on kids, you know, first of all, you don't know whether they're exposures or they're cases, and I guess, you know, there is such a huge difference there, and what we're finding too is it's very hard to determine whether they're exposed at home or at school, even though the school's doing the best they can to figure that out. And I just think it's very hard to set a certain percentage. And there again, as you guys have already discussed, and you've got schools with with a low number of kids there, and you take out a certain percentage. And so there again, you would definitely have to set certain percentages for every school. But there's just so many variables. And also what we're finding, we've got clusters. So we know that it's occurring more clusters in a classroom. That's what we see at Topsail Middle right now. Cafeteria being one of those. So I think that it's just really hard to set a percentage, and understand that you don't want to have to come back and address this all the time, but I don't know, there's just so many moving parts, so many variables. I don't know. I think it'll be difficult because there again, the kids who are exposed go home. Okay, so think about it from this point. The kids who are exposed go home once we identify that they're a case or a contact. Then the people that are left, they aren't the people that were exposed. So you're going to put masks on them for 5 days. At what point? I kind of missed that. I'm sorry. And then really, if you're going to mask anybody up because of cases in the school, you really need to look at masking them up for a full 10 days in case you miss some of the contacts to the case. Just our thoughts.
No, that's a good point. I hadn't looked at it that way. Very good point.
Well, what about going in and making a percentage based on the school and its number? I mean, you know, depending on the size of the school.
How would you determine what that number's going to be? That's my thing.
On a school-by-school basis, I guess.
Well, y'all, it's just my thought, but 20% of a school is 1 in 5. Let's remember that. 1 in 5 kids out due to some relation to COVID. That's a pretty high number that even if we set it at 20%, that's a pretty high number.
I just want to say one more thing. Prevention is putting the mask on before it happens. Just want to share that.
Well, at prevention with the mask on, but at what point do we return to normalcy? And I mean, we've got to. I mean, I'm not for throwing masks back on every time. So that's one thing is that I'm not going to. I mean, I've stood firm on this. If we do a percentage, but I mean, at what percentage, like we're saying, and I don't know if anybody's got a magic number to pull out what percentage it would be. So I think there's still a lot of studies, a lot of debate, a lot of things that are coming out that we're still learning about all of this.
All right. Well, we could debate this, but we need to kind of move on. Somebody does have to make a motion. Everybody is still inclined to make a motion. We know we have to make one concern the mask. We have to do it every month.
Yes, ma'am, and I'm trying to pull up. Let's see. I'll go ahead and put it out there. I make a motion that Pender County Schools set a COVID safety metric that would include mandatory masking for all staff and students. Should all COVID-related absences exceed 20% of each school's population. This would be done on the individual school basis. Each time mandatory masking is enforced, the level must stay under 20% for 5 consecutive school days.
Okay, and I'm sorry, did you also mention about the mask? Is that going to be a separate motion? As far as our monthly mandate have to do?
If you guys are okay with that, let's just make that a separate motion.
at this time, Ms. Burns has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Can we hold on a minute? Beth would, the part about the percentages for each school, is there a way that could be incorporated in there?
Well, I would think we would have to set those, wouldn't we, before we put it into the motion?
I mean, what I'm saying, I don't know if 20 may work at one place, but not, no, you see what I'm saying?
I do.
I just don't know if we can, y'all see my point about it being set, depending on the size of the school. I don't know how, that's how I would leave it in there. I don't know how that can be worded.
It looks like Ms. Burns has made the motion just to set a straight 20% across the county. So each school would be at 20%. That's the motion that she set forth.
And this is Mr. Smith. I want to be clear. The health department is not willing to give us any percentages today. Their position has still not changed. They want masks back on the children. Is that correct?
I don't know that we said 100% that we want masks on children. I do know that we are not in a position to give you a percentage. Because, you know, there again, we would seek guidance from DHS on that if it would come to that, and they're not giving guidance at this point. It's just that we're just having after the fact, I don't know how much it's going to help at that point. And but there again, we'll support whatever you guys decide.
Well, what I mean is we'd almost need to custom tailor it depending on the size of the school. So, you know, one number would work for Topsail High School, another number would work for West Pender, another number would work for Pender High School, that type of thing. I mean, that's right, 1 in 5 is a lot. But if you look at a school with 1,000 students, yeah, that's one number. If you look at a school with 300 students, that's totally different.
It makes sense. I see what you're saying.
Board, this is Rachel Hitch. I was just going to add in that, you know, what you're discussing is the difference between a percentage or a straight number. You know, if you set a percentage across the board, you're going to get different numbers at the school because the populations are different, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think the way to think about it is start with the larger question, just trying to help the board, you know, accomplish what it wants to. But start with the larger question: do we want to set a number for each school? That if it gets to this number, then the mask mandate's going to go back into effect, or do you want to set a percentage? So maybe looking at numbers instead of trying to set a percentage that gives you numbers that are where you want to be. You could either set a number for each school, or you could, you know, instead of changing percentages, you could just decide, okay, in this population, this is the number, this is the cutoff number. Does that make sense? If what you're trying to look at is the total kids that are out, you know, then you could set a number and not worry about it.
Madam Chair, this is Brandon. One of the things you may want to consider is that we still don't have a second to the motion. And
Right.
if at this point we're trying to figure out whether or not there's going to be a friendly amendment to the motion, and whether the motion maker will accept that. And so that is where we are. And so unless there's a friendly amendment and a second, we have an issue with continuing to discuss the motion.
Okay.
Well, and I just had one more thing to say about that is, this is not, I did not want anyone to take this motion as my affirmation that I believe, in the ability of math to hold COVID-19. This was simply made, because we have rules that we have to follow. And very much, I remember that August meeting when we went back in, that emergency meeting, when we changed back to mask wearing. I just thought, I don't want to be caught like that again. There's rules that we have to follow, whether we believe in masking or not. I just wanted to make sure that we had something to fall back on should we ever have another situation like August. So, Brandon, what would I do right now? Just nothing, or rescind the motion, or what?
Well, no. I mean, it's sort of procedurally at this point. If you don't have a second, then the motion dies. You can always make it another motion to see if you can get a second. But does that make sense procedurally? Like that's how
It does. It does.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just didn't know what I was supposed to do at this point. So,
yeah,
okay.
you can either accept a friendly amendment of some sorts, or the motion, assuming one is offered. But then otherwise the motion dies for lack of a second.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So since there was not a second and it's that motion has died, we still need to have a motion made regarding the monthly mask.
Wait one moment before you do that. Since she has brought this up, I do feel like, out of respect for her motion, that we do need to get the stakeholders to give us some input. My hesitancy is just simply that Dr. Hill, and this is what I'm about to say, is not by any means any kind of shade on anyone, but I would want Dr. Hill, the health department, and others, these stakeholders, that right now don't have an answer, and it's not because they're not prepared. It's just that this is just something that they just don't have an answer right now for. But I would like for them to come back with some more information for us, so that way, that way we can at least discuss it with some more details. It's not that I'm against anything that any board members bringing up. It's just I want to make sure that all these stakeholders are putting something in, because August, I don't want something like that, because yes, I was the only one that did vote the way I did in August, and I don't want to have parents having to be caught off guard on this. So, Dr. Hill, Shirley, any of y'all want to chime in? I mean, any of y'all willing to, talk with the stakeholders on this and the cabinet and others and try to come up with something? I mean, if that's what the board wants.
Well, Ms. Mosier's not on the call, but in talking with her, I know that she's going to stick by that. She doesn't have any guidance from the state on this, and that she'll present the information, and you guys will need to make your decision. I feel pretty confident that's going to be her answer.
Yeah. Mr. Smith, I'd have to again say that, I'm nowhere in the ballpark of being qualified to make a medical determination about percentages of health, especially public health. And I would simply defer back to the health department and their guidance.
No, I understand, Dr. Hill, and I appreciate your honesty on that. And I'm not a medical professional either, and that's why I feel like it's up to the individual parent to make that decision. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
All right. Anything else before we move on? All right. At this time, do we have anyone who would like to make a motion regarding math?
Madam Chair, this is Ken Smith. I'd like to make a motion that we continue the course that we're currently on, that masks are optional for students and staff for the upcoming month.
All right. Mr. Smith has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Mr. George.
George is seconding. All in favor? I'll go around. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Barnes? Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Mr. George?
Yes.
All right, so carried. At this time, we now need to move into the next part of our action agenda, 3.2, legal representation. Dr. Hill, sorry.
Yes, ma'am. There's been two, I think, separate proposals presented to the board for review. I think at this time, we're ready for any presentations or questions from the board as legal matters as far as the two presentations, and take a vote.
All right.
Ms. Fontana, for the public, can you summarize why we're having to do this now, since we just did it in June?
Yes. It has come to our attention, and we have received a formal letter that the law firm Swartz and Shaw that we currently are using is basically disbanding. And so we have been presented with two proposals by one group of attorneys who is moving to another law firm, and then also to another attorney who is pretty much starting a separate law firm. And so we have asked for fee proposals, and those have been presented to us. Mr. George, does that pretty much summarize? Is there anything you want to add to that, or any other board members?
No, ma'am. I just know that, we just did it in June. People that watch that, I want them to understand why we're doing it again 6 weeks.
Right. And also, we, District Person, you just talked to this also, but we couldn't really talk about anything until, from what I understand, we had received a formal letter, and we received that, Mr. First, you have to help me remember that. We received that a couple of weeks ago, maybe?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It was received on September 30th. It was sent to you, Ms. Fontana, as chair, and copied to Dr. Hill as superintendent.
Yes, and then it was also forwarded to all the board members. So basically, this is where we are now.
And Ms. Fontana, this is Rachel Hitch. I just want to make sure there's no misunderstanding or anything that's misleading. It's not sure how Rich is, whether he'll be carrying on as technically the same entity, but it won't be in structure or in name the same entity.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
All right. So board members, this opens it up for discussion. Not really sure I know where to go from here. I don't know just what kind of discussions you guys want to have, what you want to talk about, but we do have to make, we do have to act on this today.
Is this for the remainder of the school year that we're making a decision on legal representation, or is it for, I mean, how long a period of time is this? Like Mr. George said, we just recently voted on it, so.
Right. So Mr. Smith, this is Brandon McPherson. This is to address the current matters that are listed in that letter. And so for future matters, the board is free to contract with whomever they want. But for your current existing matters, things that are going on right now in your school district that the law firm is currently handling for you, that is the decision before you, is handling those matters. And then if you wish to make a decision about the future matters, you can do that as well, because you will need representation for future matters. But for example, one of the items listed on your current matters is school board meetings for 21, 22. So that matter will continue for the remainder of this school year, as you stated. So at least that matter, if not a few others, would continue to the end of the school year. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, so just to follow up, so anything that you would currently be covering for us right now would carry on until June, and then in June we could revisit this. Is that what I'm understanding you to say?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're correct. So once again, we're making decisions about whatever current matters are existing right now. But for example, the board meetings. There is one matter that I know may not be resolved by June 2022, and that's the school bond. But I believe at that point you can certainly make a decision about that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to carry through June, but these are your current matters that are listed on the Exhibit A.
All right, thank you.
You can make whatever decision you want to about your current matters, but I'm just saying that as of November 1, these matters will go with whomever the board decides they should go with.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Other board members, questions, concerns? Mr. Hall, are you good?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of questions because we don't really have an RFP here, but, however.
Ms. Burns, you get the question?
I'm listening to all this and just trying to digest all the information. I've looked at the proposals, and I'm, to be honest with you, I was just really wanting to hear more discussion about it today.
Well, Ms. Burns, I'm here to answer any questions you have. So if whatever questions you have, to the extent I can answer them, I will answer them.
And I thank you for that. I'm just trying to, like I said, just sitting here trying to figure out I'm trying to think of a question to ask you because there's so much going on right now, and I don't, it kind of sounds like everything would just move ahead. So as long as things are getting taken care of, I'm good.
Is Richard Schwartz currently on the call?
I think he is. Yes, I'm pretty sure he is.
Richard, if you're on the call, do you have anything you wanted to add since you have Brandon and a large number of your current firm is going to a different firm, or restructuring on your part, I guess. Is there anything you want to add?
Dr. Hill, does he not have the info?
Yes, ma'am. We sent him the calling number. So, Dr. B, can you check the computer to see if he's online? Maybe he's just not star sixing.
From what I can see, Rich is not muted and he's good to go.
Do you?
He is not muted.
Madam Chair, we might be able to just call him on a cell phone and just place it beside the speakerphone.
Okay, that's fine. I think he's trying something.
Okay, Rich, is that you? Okay. I thought Dr. Hill sent it to you. Okay, hang on just a sec. Okay, Rich, I'm hanging up right now, so you can call it in, okay? All right. Hang on just a sec. All right. All right. Rich, I guess Rich is not on yet. All right.
Someone just joined.
Yep. Okay.
This is Richard Schwartz.
Okay. All right, Cindy?
Hey, Richard.
Hello.
Hey, there you are. Okay.
I'm sorry. I I thought there were not going to be attorneys present at this meeting. That's what I was advised, and I didn't get the call. Nobody sent me a call number.
Oh, well, Dr. Hill said he sent it to you, so, yeah, and well, you know, Mr. McPherson has to be here anyhow just because we have a meeting, so. Mr. Smith, what questions did you have?
The only question I have, since this is coming up to us, I mean, I just found out about this at our last board meeting that we're having this type of vote like the rest of us, but is there anything, Richard, you want to share with the board that you think would be important for us to know before we take a vote this serious?
Yeah, I'm you know, this is the suddenness of this caught me off guard as well, and I apologize that you're having to make this decision. And I'm in the process right now of adding attorneys in capacity, and we'll be able to I'll probably be in a position to make an announcement next week, but I would be able to carry forward with your work. And I've enjoyed our association over the years, and I think we've done good work together. Look forward to working with you in the future. And one of the things that, you know, that's in the proposal is you've got an opportunity, if you want to split up work. And depending upon the, you know, what the matters were.
Board members, any questions?
If we don't make it, the work, the stuff automatically stay with Richard at what's currently Swartz and Shuttle?
That's correct.
No, that's not correct.
No.
If you don't make a decision by the 20th, you'd be contacted and asked what your decision is.
But if you don't make a decision, in effect, the contract stays with the firm. It's in Schwartz and Shaw.
The letter specifically says, if we do not hear from the board in writing by October 20, 2021, we will contact you directly with a communication with all the below lawyers to ascertain the board's desires regarding legal representation.
That's correct. But in the absence of a decision, the contract stays with the firm.
I respectfully disagree because there is no existing contract. But the work could continue if the board chose, but in the absence of a decision on October 20th, 2021, you would be contacted again to ascertain what the board's desires would be.
So, Richard, I guess my main question would be, for you, if we were to choose to stay, or to go with, Mr. McPherson and others in that capacity under the new firm, if something were to, and keep what we have right now, at least until June, if something were to come up and we would decide as a board that we might need to contract those services out, you would still be available to do things like that. Is that correct?
That's correct, or vice versa, either way, I would imagine.
Right, or vice versa, either way. That's correct. Okay.
And to be clear, I'm happy to work with you under any circumstances.
All right.
And obviously the rates would be different if there's no retainer agreement. So,
Correct. All right, board members, need to go on to the next step. You guys asked me to get the fee proposals for you. I did. You have those. What are your next steps?
It's put the board, me as a board member, put in an awkward position because I have no issues with Richard, and I have no issues with the other ones that are in the firm. They both served as well, in my opinion. So it makes it difficult. It's not like we're firing somebody. So it's a very difficult decision that we're having to take, and it feels like the spur of the moment. I think it's very unfair that we're being rushed into this decision because there's a lot of important things that are going that is taking place. So that kind of upsets me and disappoints me that we are put in that position, and I'm sure other board members or other boards across the state are also being put in that same position. So with all that being said, it's kind of like you don't want your insurance to lapse. We don't want our attorney coverage to lapse. So I would like to make a motion. I think we would do now with the new firm, Polymer School educational side of it, and revisit and put out an RFP as soon as possible. That would give Richard time to make sure he's staffed up to where he needs to be with Schwartz and whatever the name of the new law firm would be. But like I said, it's very unfortunate and it puts me in a very awkward position because I have nothing against either firm, either group.
I'll second that motion.
Right.
I wonder where home rates are athletes.
All right, so Mr. George has made the motion. Mr. Smith is seconding the motion. I guess at this time I'll go around and ask who all is in favor. Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Hall?
Yes.
All right. So carried. All right.
Ms. Fontana?
Yes, sir.
I think you need to ask the remaining board members. We've got a vote from Ms. Burns and Mr. Hall.
Okay.
You need
Sorry. Yes, Mr. Smith
Yes.
and Mr. George.
Yes.
Sorry, it was just, I was still trying to hear I thought I heard all the motion. I was just making sure it was kind of in and out for me. Sorry about that.
And Madam Chair, do you mind repeating the motion?
Mr. George, I'm going to ask you to do that.
So we go with the new law firm, Polymer and Sproul, I think how you say it, the educational division of that firm. We immediately release a request for proposals.
Okay, so to be clear, that is all current matters will go to Pointer and Sproul, and then Mr. George, you want like an RFP immediately for future services?
Yes, to be advertised just like we usually do.
Okay.
I'm just upset just with happening this way. So.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood the motion and understood the vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. George, for saying that again.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Richard Schwartz. If I would, a point of personal privilege. Just wanted to thank the board. I've appreciated my interactions with all of you, with each of you and all of you over the years, and have really been honored by the opportunity to serve you over the years, and we look forward to doing it again in the future. So thank you very much. And I appreciate the kind remarks, prior to the vote on George in particular.
Thank you, sir. All right, board members, at this time, we have down listed item 4, it's our closed session. Is there, do we have reason to go into closed session at this time?
Madam Chair, I know everybody doesn't want to go to closed session, but can we go in for just a minute? This received yesterday.
Yes, sir. So at this time, take session.
Hold up, what's the purpose of the closed session? Is it to discuss COVID protocols or discuss legal representation? Because those were the two noticed reasons for the meeting.
Okay, then it's neither or, one of those.
Okay. And because I do not believe human resources is listed, I'm going back to the notice to make sure that that's absolutely correct. So hold on.
I don't think it was listed.
I don't think it was either. So hold on briefly so I can review it.
Confidential student matters is up there. On the closed session.
Yes. Yeah, so the notice that went out to the public says the purpose of the meeting was to discuss district masking protocols and legal representation with the possible portions of the meeting may be in closed session. So there weren't student matters listed on the notice.
So there was or there wasn't?
There were not. Student matters was not listed on the meeting notice.
Okay.
Even though it's listed in the closed session part, it doesn't count.
Well, that was in the agenda and not in the notice. The notice is what if you see what I'm saying, Mr. George?
Yeah. All right.
You're okay.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. That was on the notice.
Mr. George has made the motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hall is seconded. All in favor. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
And Mr. George?
Yes.
All right. So carried. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.